Okay, everybody, welcome back. So exciting. Oh, I got so worked up about those pouches. I'm telling you. I don't know if my next guest imbibes. I'm not going to ask him, but I'm telling you, these pouches are a pain in the neck. I'm thrilled to welcome John Thorburn. He is the Production Print Solutions Product Marketing Advisor at Canon. That's big Canon, Canon USA. Um, I am, Canon has a very important role in my life in the printiverse. It's more so with Canon Solutions America, but it's one Canon, of course. But you guys have been supporters of the printiverse and all of my endeavors for so many years, and this as well. And your entire company came together to support Print Across America, to support International Print Day this year. You have amazing articles in our online program, and I highly recommend that everybody get in touch. And if you have Canon equipment and you're not part of the Think community, you are missing out. This is one of my favorite user events that I attend every single year. And one of my new favorite people is John. We had an amazing conversation, pre-conversation. I speak with everybody before they present on my programming. And we're going to be speaking about innovation and culture. But before we get into that, John, why don't you give everybody some background on who you are and how you found your way into the wonderful world of print?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Deb. First, I have to thank you. This is an honor to be here, and I'm so proud to be spending time with you and supporting your efforts. You are selfless and you make a difference in printing, and we're proud to be with you. So thank you very much. My background, well, you just told my lengthy title. It's a real mouthful. I'm an advisor, and I've been in print my whole life. I started in 1981. And so I started off in commercial lithography, and I was a starving art student and design student who had to get a job. And I thought, well, I'll go to some place where they make pictures, where they make images. And that's how it all began. 1981, I'm from Boston. I've been with Canon for 18 years now. I've spent my entire career in the reproduction of color. So that's 42 years in living color, and it's been great. And only a few companies, commercial printers, and then up till 89, I joined a corporation called Cytex, which was in the business of electronic pre-press systems. And that was started by a gentleman named Effie Arazi. And at the year that I joined the company, he had just recently left to form a new company that was called EFI, Effie. And so after Cytex, I joined EFI. So I spent a good part of my career chasing Effie Arazi around the States. I never got to meet him, unfortunately. And then I came to Canon in 2005. And it's been great. It's just been a great career. And that's going to be my message today, that printing is a great place to be.
I couldn't agree with you more. And anybody out there who pays any attention to me knows that I usually have a problem with the color management people who just want to, boil everything down to a mathematical formula. And I'm not saying that is not accurate. There is a mathematical formula, but there is no mathematical formula to, what do you think about that, Deb? And I go, eh. So we bonded over that, and we also bonded over innovation and culture being the title of this presentation, which might not seem like it necessarily goes together. But why don't you explain what you meant by that and really the message that you want to convey here?
Sure. Thank you, Deb. Thank you. Well, in terms of innovation and culture, the way I look at it is that technology innovation brings new people together to form new relationships. And those new relationships, they stimulate new creative businesses. And those businesses and the services that come from it feed into popular culture. And it's a circle. You know, we're all responding to popular culture, and we're all innovating, and we're finding these new ways to interact with each other. And in the world of commercial printing, that's especially interesting because, you know, we receive our inputs from creative people, from ad agencies, designers, and so forth. And so there's incredible convergence between the creative roles that people play and the production roles people in commercial print production are playing. So I think that this is really an interesting set of happenings that are driving all sorts of unexpected great outcomes for both businesses and for the people that work in the businesses. And, you know, innovation, I'm with Canon, and innovation is sort of Canon's, you know, that's what they're about. That's their DNA. You know, they always lead in patents, and, you know, this is what they do. They have innovative products all from the whole value chain, from, you know, cameras all the way through to inkjet production printing and everything in between. And so that's in the culture of our company. So this idea of innovation and culture not only is meaningful for folks like me that work for the company that I do, but it's meaningful for our business partners and for the industry in general. That's why I thought that might be a useful way to, you know, put a wrapper around what we could talk about today.
I mean, and it's just so perfect because so many of the sessions today have really relied on the fact that technology is a gateway drug to attracting younger people to the printing industry. And whether you're a printing company or you're a giant global printing manufacturer who does a million other things for the good of the world, there to live in that vacuum of this is just what we do and that has nothing to do with us, when essentially we're all in communications, and communications is always evolving. And I think we're actually in a very exciting time in the printing industry. And I mean this because we are literally seeing a culture shift now. There were people, I don't know if you want to call them baby boomers or I guess baby boomers, the people above the Gen Xers, you know, they hung on as long as they could, and then the pandemic came around and they didn't want to, you know, give up the business at that point. And they really didn't want to make any changes because, you know, people were in survival mode. But now that we are, you know, moving into the thing we're moving into now, however you want to define that, I have at least noticed a shift in the printing companies, in the management teams, in if it's a family-owned business, the kids who could be 50 years old, by the way, if their parents are 80 or something like that, taking over. And the first thing they want to do is upgrade the innovation, upgrade the technology, upgrade the culture in the print shop. And they're turning to the manufacturers to help them do that. So please go for it.
Absolutely. That's a great lead in. Thank you. I thought that I'd like to just take a brief walk down memory lane just for the folks who are tuning in to understand just how much this industry has changed since folks like ourselves have joined. You know, I'm a saver. I save every good print job I've ever done. I save it. And, you know, I save all these things. And I stumbled upon a newsletter from the last commercial lithographer that I worked at, which was in 1988, before I went over to the electronic side. And this newsletter gave the stats on the business. And I just have to share this with everybody. The name of this lithographer was Mark Burton. They were the largest commercial printer in Boston, where I'm from, at that time. And at that time, commercial printing was the fourth largest industry in Massachusetts and in the nation in terms of how many people it employed. So, you know, it was huge and a great thing to get into. Now, in the year 1987, Mark Burton printers produced 5,400 color separations, 57,000 pieces of film, 20,000 plates for the press. They put 85,300 pounds of ink onto 6,461,000 pounds of paper. And, you know, it's incredible. And now the area that I work in is digital printing. And I thought, well, okay, let's compare the way it was back then to how things are. You know, that was just some of the output figures and that sort of part. But let's talk about the job functions that used to go on between the creative and the press, and look at what they are today. I think some people in the audience might be surprised, you know, shocked actually about what it is today. So, you know, back in the day, it started with color separation scanning. You know, a photographer would, you know, submit transparency art, and it would be put on a drum scanner and separated into CMYK. And at that point in time, that person, they had to have a set of skills that understood quite a bit about the artist, about the photographer. They had to understand about visual art. They had to understand about things like realism, impressionism. You know, sometimes the originals were actually paintings that were wrapped around a drum. So this was someone who was in the reproduction of color, who had to understand something about the intention of the photographer. And that's where it gets interesting, because this culture of creator and person doing the reproduction, it's getting closer and closer. And the thing that connects is the idea of meaning, you know, and the artists and creative people have one sense of meaning, you know, from their visual arts training, and they're trying to realize that intention, realize that meaning in the reproduction process. Now, in the reproduction side, you'll see that most commercial printers define meaning based on things they can measure with instrumentation. And so that has been the start of a, you know, a sort of a cultural getting to know each other, and it's still there today. You know, the next thing that would happen is that an artist would make an art board. They would lay out an art board with camera-ready type, which would have to be photographed. And then there'd be tissue overlays with instructions on how to build this print job. And now in electronics, you'd call that assembling or something like that. And those folks, you know, those folks had to understand the designer's intention, the layout artist. They had to understand ideas about composition, you know, these creative ideas. Well, who do you think is the color separation person or the assembly person in today's modern print factory? It's the person that runs this device called the RIP, the raster image processor, the print controller. All those functions are in that computer right now, and they have controls. This one person now has to understand a little bit about color and photographic intent. They have to understand about composition and, you know, the working of the whole printed product. You know, then we had plate makers that would transfer onto a plate that would go onto a press. You know who that person is right now? That's also the RIP operator. That person does the conversion from vector art and fonts to, you know, pixels. And so they are like the QA engineer. They have to make sure that your design survives in this transformation process. And then it's the press operator, right? And the press operator had to be very mechanically inclined back in the day, and they had to fix things and so forth. Now the press operator has a much easier job in a sense, and they don't have to fix things, but they do have to understand how to perform make ready, how to get the color on the press to a stage that's repeatable and accurate and will deliver what your customer file asks for. So the moral of the story here, in my personal point of view, is that all those sorts of convergences already happen. And there is craft in the art of color printing. And you want that craft to stay there. There are decisions being made by people who run machinery that already step over from purely mechanical questions to questions of artist intent, decisions on how to reproduce something, of course, color, all that sort of stuff. It's in there. And now today, we have these other very interesting drivers, one of them being AI and another being the question of automation. And so now we see things that are starting to take place like never before. And I'd be happy to tell you what they are.
Oh, well, we want you to keep going. I'm telling you, people are just absolutely loving what you're saying. And so am I. I mean, John and I can see each other like backstage, and my face hurts from smiling so much. But before you go on, how do we translate everything you just said into a job description that somebody, they still see printing industry and they're like, but everything you just said makes me go, yes, printing industry.
Well, it's already there. In fact, I can give you a job description. That's a job today. I work with this community. They're called color analysts. And within that title, which sounds very technical, there are, of course, folks who are more on the technical side, but then there are folks who have come to it from an art and design background. This is the big secret in color printing, is that it's a confluence of all these interesting things. So I have colleagues who went to art school, colleagues that are photographers, colleagues that are scientists, engineers. It all comes together in printing. And so one title is called Color Analyst. Now that Color Analyst title, I'd just like to tell the world what those people do, because most folks don't really understand. You can think of them as the people that shepherd your artwork data from your PDF to the press. They do all those invisible things, all those crafty things that make sure that what your intention is being realized. The first thing, of course, that a color analyst person does is they get on top of their technology game so that they know how to deliver on, what your color specifications have literally, mathematically asked for. But that's the beginning. One of the ways that you know that you're working with a great printing company is if they will dialogue with you and they will look at your work and they'll say, this is what we see in there. This is what we think you're striving to do. In other words, they get on your side and they collaborate with you, because that's really what this thing is about. When you're creating, you're dealing in an abstract space, and you want to see, will it become an object that gives me that same sort of feeling I'm looking for? The commercial printing folks, this is really what their specialty is. And what is going to be required more and more in the future, if you ask me, is that part of that specialty will involve a great degree of imagination, because you see so many output choices are true now. I mean, in our own company, we have such a list of printing presses and printing devices. They span the range, from inkjet production, roll-fed, cut sheet, down to inkjet wide format proofers that digital photographers would use for their proof, everything in between, and the camera folks. What do we see happening is that the creative people and the production people, they can have much more interesting conversations now because of the innovative technology possibilities. So my message to anybody who's listening, who's still thinking about a career in commercial printing is, yes, absolutely. And if you were to ask the question, well, what sort of a background would I want? What I look for? Well, it's all the coolest stuff. It's the visual arts combined with the database stuff, combined with the technology stuff, combined with the AI stuff and the imagination for how to ask for something and see it realized. how to make that printable, the separation from the concept to what a machine requires. It's a very exciting area.
It really is. There's a TV show. I've never watched it, but I've seen it go by in at least in America. It's called Say Yes to the Dress. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking, say yes to the press. And yes, Sandy Hubbard, I'm TMing that. So don't even think about it. Innovation and culture, right? So there's also another way of looking at it, which is I really want to tap into with you, which is to look at the world, look at the culture and see what in God's name is going on out there, and seeing how we in the printing industry can innovate to meet that moment. And for sure, one of the biggest moments that is coming straight at us right now, it still might be a faint light at the end of that tunnel, but it is getting brighter and it is getting bigger, and it will get faster once they figure out the glasses. But I'm talking about the metaverse. Now, I think there has never been a bigger need for the printing / manufacturing industry than what we refer to as phygital. Things in the digital universe need to come into the physical universe, and try to get that pillow or that diploma or those home goods or that shirt without the printing industry. Good luck, people out there. Or customized sneaker. I mean, I don't want to go on and on and on, but I could. And you and I had such an amazing conversation about this. So I really want you to address from your perspective that concept of innovation and culture, not within your company, but looking at culture and how we, like I said, meet that moment, please.
Well, I'll try my best. That's a big question. Well, I'm not sure. Let me see. Right now, today, AI tools are popping up all over the place, and they're popping up in commercial printing too, in terms of the artwork that we're starting to receive from people that could be AI generated. And of course, some of that is writing and some of it is imagery. And so take imagery, for example, it's been historically true, and it'll be even more true in the future, that if you want your artwork to be reproduced on a printing press, the printing people are usually the smartest folks in the room for helping you to get that done. So one of the points that you and I brought up, that actually you brought up, Deb, that I thought was really fascinating, is some of those generation tools will produce RGB output, and it's not ready for press yet. Well, who are the people that know how to color separate that for the printing condition? Those are the commercial printers. And who in the digital press room is the person that does that? Those are the people that operate the raster image processor, the press controller. What we used to think of as the pre-press department is now a pre-press department in a box. And the person that runs the press also runs that pre-press department in the box. And they're the ones that will know how to color separate it properly for the printing condition, whether it's for packaging or, for coated sheet fed printing or whatever it is. So the artwork generation still needs some craft and expertise to make it all the way through to survive the process. Now, the earlier in the design cycle, the commercial printer can get involved with the content creators, usually the more successful the campaign will be, because they can represent their area of what they know about and say, this, this sort of thing will be hard if you're printing it this way. Maybe you have to print it that way, and so forth. That was historically true, but now there's going to be a barrage of, let's say, computer-generated artwork that's going to have all sorts of things that are going to need, like I say, shepherding through the data chain until they become a printed product that you can hold in your hand. So in terms of the trends in the printing side, there's automation and there's AI. And when it comes to the printing functions, I would say the AI and the color analysts and the people that deal with what used to be pre-press functions, those two groups need to become best friends, because those are the people that are going to help the creators, know how to generate input that will output successfully. Now, on the back end of output production, output manufacturing, automation is going to change the face of that. It's doing it every day, and it's going to continue. So that is going to be a situation where, fewer people can get more work done on more machinery. Efficiency and automation in the press room, there's no stopping it. It's full steam ahead. The tools today are just amazing.
Yeah.
However, we're not
please.
manufacturing car parts. We're not manufacturing donuts. We're manufacturing communications objects that will be evaluated visually. We are part of the visual art chain. And I guess that's my big point today is people who have those skills, who are also interested in things like databasing and AI generative tools and all the rest of it, well, they can have thrilling and satisfying careers. And it's just opening up right now.
I mean, the theme of this year's International Print Day is Print Connects. And I think that you have illustrated how print connects us to everything, including innovation and culture, through this presentation. And I just want to thank you so much. You have some amazing comments in the chat. Oh, sorry. If you can, you should go back in there. Although I did see Nicole is in there, so I'm sure she will grab them for you. But I just want to thank you so much for your passion, which is exactly what came through to everybody on the chat and watching and will on these replays, and for being a champion of the industry and innovation and culture and the merging of all of that, and being one of the only color guys I've ever agreed with. So thank you so much for everything, John.
Thank you, Deb. It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Take care. Okay.
Thank you. We will be right back with Team Xerox.